Welcome back. This is your boy Giraffe Raw, and I'm coming to you with another How to Scout series video. And this time it's going to be about the offensive line. And if you're new to this channel and you're seeing this for the first time, I've pretty much done a bunch of videos of how to scout to series when it comes to corners and defensive ends and whatever, linebackers, safeties, tight ends, running back. I've done a How to Scout series for almost every single position. As of right now, the last one I have to do will be the quarterback position, so we're going to get into that probably next week or this week or whatever it's going to be. But right now we're going to do it for the offensive line. Now when I do these How to Scout series videos, I'm pretty much kind of telling you how I scout certain positions, or what I believe professional scouts or even couch scouts just like me, how they scout. But it's my opinion, and it's mostly going to be based off of what I've seen in the NFL that translates from college players trying to go into the NFL, if you get what I mean. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. When you are scouting offensive lines, first you got to distinguish basically what position they play. Whether they play the center position, which is going to be the player snapping the football, if you don't know. Whether they play the guard position, which is literally going to be the offensive lineman right next to the center. It's very distinguished, whether it's left or right. Very distinguished. Left is going to be on the left-hand side of the quarterback. Right is going to be on the right-hand side of the quarterback. A guard is just a guard. Usually guys play a certain guard position because of the way that the movement skills are. Players do have to get used to it. So a left guard you can't just automatically put him at right guard if that's the case or whatever, or think about doing that. Usually they have to practice at it a lot because it's a different movement skills from going left or going right. That's the same thing with offensive tackle. Distinguish if they're a left tackle or right tackle. That's a big distinguishment because usually left tackles are considered the more premium and more important position because the right-hand quarterbacks are dominant, just period. And so that covers the blind side, which if you ever heard that term, the blind side, that's what it basically means. A left tackle trying to protect the quarterback. And it's blind side, which if you're right-handed, you technically can't see what's going on behind you. That's basically what it means. And a right tackle is, the strong side of the offense, which is basically, if you're a right-hand quarterback, that's what your head could turn to and look at really, really quickly. So you have to distinguish that. Most of the time, left tackles are going to be the more athletic players. Mostly the right tackles are going to be the more stronger type of offensive tackle. So you distinguish that. Okay. Secondly, you trying to see what scheme does that particular team run for the certain player that you're looking at. Zone schemes or power schemes. Those are usually the two, or man-to-man schemes. I won't say power scheme. I'll say man-to-man. Usually when you have a zone scheme, the offensive line usually moves. And they block within a certain zone. It's just like on defense, if you play zone, you're covering a certain area of the football. And then usually in man-to-man schemes, you're going to see a lot of just hit-up blocking, a lot of double teams, even pulling guards. And I know that you can say, well, offensive linemen are moving when guys are pulling, but they're usually going to block a guy. It's not technically going to be a particular player, but it's going to be usually whether it's a defensive back coming down or a linebacker that's trying to make the play, which then would, when you have pulling guards, you can seal off for a crease for a running back to run through. Like I said, usually in those type of schemes where I just named man-to-man or zone, they usually is for blocking type of run blocking type of schemes. Run blocking and not really pass blocking. Pass blocking is usually just straight up you backpedaling and doing what you need to do to protect your quarterback. So those are usually the first things you want to distinguish. All right. So what position they play, and then what type of scheme are you looking at? Because then that'll give you a better perspective of if your team is going to be looking at that player based off of what the offensive coordinator likes to run. Offensive coordinators run different things, and we saw it even kind of in the Super Bowl. I think both Super Bowl teams kind of run more of a zone blocking scheme, especially the Shanahan type of team for the 49ers with that offense. While teams like the Tennessee Titans or the Baltimore Ravens will kind of run more of a head-to-head blocking man scheme. So those are the two things you're first distinguishing. Secondly, as you do those two things, then you're going to look at what do they do. How good are they as the run blocker? Are they a mauling run blocker, or they are attack and keep a guy where it needs to be run blocker? Both of those types of run blockers are still good run blockers. But you're going to see what their strength is at, and can they hold their ground. And if you're a mauler, you can push guys out of the way. It doesn't really matter. But you're trying to see where they sit at when it comes to those type of situations. You want to see how smart they are when it comes to run blocking too. You know, do they block the right person? Because sometimes you can see a guy and they come out and they run, you know, in a run block, and they completely miss their guy, or they block literally the wrong guy because a guy comes free. Then even in pass protection of blocking the wrong player. Being smart when it comes to stunts, that's a huge thing. Whether, you know, and that's going to be dealing with the centers, guards, and tackles. It's going to be dealing with the whole offensive line, being able to catch that type of stuff. The athleticism, when you're pass blocking, you backpedal. You know, left tackles or right tackles in general, being able to use their long arms and keep a defender away from a quarterback, but having their feet being quick and shuffling. That's another huge thing. So as you're looking at that, when it comes to run blocking, is you're seeing what type of blocker they are as a run blocker. That usually gives you an indication of what they are as a pass blocker as well. If they maul guys, usually as a pass blocker, sometimes, you know, it's a situation their feet may not be good, and that's why they have to kind of attack guys and maul guys. But then you have those situations where their feet is really, really good, and they can keep a defender at bay without actually, you know, trying to be all aggressive and try to push the guy. So those are the two huge things that you're really looking at, especially for a left tackle. As I go into the house real quick, especially for a left tackle, one of the biggest things is being able to keep a defender at bay. When it comes to the pass block, pass blocking is very, very huge for left tackles. It's one of the main things that you need a left tackle to be able to do. Is being able to pass block. If a left tackle can't pass block, then it's one of those things where you're looking at the chance or a situation where you may have to take them and put them on the right side because they're not as great of a pass blocker. When it comes to centers and guards, it's not that big of a deal. You're just trying to see if they can hold their own, pretty much. That's the biggest thing about them. As I go right back outside, you're trying to see if they can hold their own. If they can hold their own, they can be a pretty good offensive lineman. But the biggest thing that I want to talk about usually when it comes to the offensive line is when it comes to left tackles and right tackles is a huge thing, because establishing a left tackle is going to be very paramount to how good your team is going to be. And establishing a right tackle is definitely paramount. As of right now, how today's NFL is going, a right tackle is huge. A right tackle is like the biggest thing that you can have. And what I mean is that because left tackles, it's not like they come dime a dozen, but still having a good right tackle really established basically how good your team can be, because you're going to have both sides of edge rushers, because edge rushers are now coming, and they're coming from both sides. If you have those two bookends in there, and it's right there for you, you can do a lot of things for pass protection in the passing game. That's why teams, you know, you're starting to see a lot of teams draft right tackles in the first round, like Ryan Ramczyk from that went to the New Orleans Saints. It's a huge thing to now do that. And you're starting to see right tackles even getting big money, because having two bookends really, really help a passing game, especially if you're trying to establish a more explosive offense. So as of right now, that's all I got to say. That's how I scout offensive linemen, how I distinguish certain things, how I think that you should scout offensive linemen. So if you see this video and you went through the whole thing, please hit that like button. Please comment, because I love to interact with y'all guys. And definitely please subscribe. And if you don't have nothing else to do, share it. Share it. Try to put me out there. Get me out there. I'm trying to become bigger than where I'm at right now. But anyway, thank you guys. I love you guys. Anybody that watching, goodbye.